Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another 80s Monday for a film which I hadn't seen in years, but had reacquainted myself with during the prime time of the pandemic. This video is for EnemyMine from 1985, starring Dennis Quaid, who some of you may know more recently from The Substance, and Louis Gossett Jr., who had quite the long and storied career, and we unfortunately lost last year. But what is this film about? Well, the synopsis is as follows. During a long space war, the lives of two wounded enemies become dependent on their ability to forgive and to trust. Now, to open a little bit more into this, and to only mention what is kind of in the trailer so as not to spoil much, we have a great sci-fi tale of survival and overcoming differences. Quaid playing our human lead, named Davidge, as the human race is kind of expanding out into space and exploring, is now at war with a reptilian form of alien creatures called the Drac. Now, during a space battle that he was involved in, he crashes on a highly unstable and volcanic planet. Desolate, barely any life on it at all. For the most part, it's just a rock in space. But he's not alone, as one of the Dracs he was battling, named Jariba, who is played by Louis Gossett Jr., has also crashed on that same planet. And initially their fight is kind of continuing as food and supplies are scarce, and neither is able to repair their ship or to even contact their respective militaries for rescue. But survival is the key, so they need to work together to survive. They spend years there, learning how to survive on this planet and make it, though they're both very reluctant, their home, as with every day that passes, the possibility of rescue seems less and less possible. Now, besides, what would happen if, what would the humans do to Jariba if they showed up to rescue Davidge, or what would the Dracs do to Davidge if it were the other way around? So they just have to kind of deal with the situation. Now, aside from survival, they also learn a lot about the terrain, the dangers of some of the rare local life forms, and even more dangerous weather patterns of sorts in these occasional meteor showers that happen. But all is not, just straightforward as Jariba becomes pregnant. No, not by Davidge and Jariba, because Jariba is technically not female. Their species kind of self-reproduces. For some it happens, for some it just doesn't. And as there is this huge risk of giving birth on an alien world, just for their entire situation, what do the Drac even do? Do they have nursemaids? Do they need to go to hospitals? Will Davidge need to act as a nursemaid? What would happen if Jariba doesn't survive? They start learning more about each other. So this way, Davidge is learning about the history of the Drac, how their family and social structures work, how everything's laid out, and even the idea of, while the humans feel they are just defending themselves from these Drac attacks during this war, from the Drac's point of view, the humans are invading their territory and taking their resources. It's a great aspect of this is getting to kind of know both sides of what's happening in this war. This war isn't simply a race for power and resources or a campaign of misinformation turning soldiers against each other for the powers that be who are manipulating them for their own personal gain. It's just seen as difference here. Both sides can learn to coexist if they're able to communicate. But it's even explained in the film that for many humans, they don't even have any idea what a Drac even looks like. They're kind of they're kind of kept out of that eye of the war. But through this crash and this need for the both of them to survive, their minds are opened as to what each other's situation is. Now, there's a lot of stuff that happens after this birth, such as some scavengers coming to the planet and how both of them will be viewed, from outsiders seeing them cohabitating on this planet. But I want to kind of leave out at least a little bit there for any of you who haven't seen this film. So aside from the story, let's go into a little bit more about the effects. These special effects are pretty decent. We got some 80s sci-fi in full force here, and they execute this vision, which is really great. They executed it pretty well. But I would say it's the character design, these prosthetics, and the performance of the Jariba character. Well, the FX artists really pulled off those designs perfectly. And it's so well, it looks very believable and lived in. And Louis Gossett Jr., again, he does absolutely great with this. Usually what he referenced, using what he referenced in an old interview as, he calls it his scuba man voice he used to do. He even uses this kind of bubbling, gurgling sound, both when speaking the Drac language, as well as his character is learning English and is speaking that language. So you really get this sense that he's real, that he's more than just an actor in a costume. You know, he's able to act through the prosthetics perfectly, unlike some of the more like recent designs that we've seen in some films where there's so much on that design and so much on the prosthetics that the actor and much of their performance is completely lost underneath it. I think it was this design and the execution and the performance for the Greba character that really sells the story as a whole. Because while, you know, one might go into this perhaps thinking it's going to be some sort of action-packed sci-fi 80s film, which may end up a little bit cheesy, like one such as Creature, which I reviewed earlier and we'll put up a link to. What you actually get out of this is a very heartwarming story of survival, something more dramatic about overcoming differences, the importance of friendship and one's word and promises, set against a sci-fi backdrop story, which is more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this quick little video here for EnemyMine from 1985, which at the time of this video is on paid rental, but not long ago it was on HBO Max, so be on the lookout as it may pop up on another service soon. I should also note that if you enjoy this film, give the short story a look. Written by Barry Longyear and titled by the same name. I originally read it in the 90s as part of this compilation here called Real Future, which has many other stories which were turned into films. It's always interesting to kind of see where some of the films and TV shows that we enjoy come from, what kind of differences there are as they try to adapt them to screen as well. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. If you enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up, and if not already subscribed, consider subscribing and hitting that little bell icon to get notifications when I put up new content, which is usually 1 to 3 times a week. Try to do a horror 80s every single Friday. Every other Monday or so, I'll put up something different from the 80s, and Wednesdays just kind of random here and there. I may put something up, so be sure to check by and see if there's something you want to check out. Anyways, thanks again for coming by, and I will see you. Well, just remember, make sure your homes are Zerky-proof.
Zerky-proof! Zerky-proof!
I will see you in the next one.